Hey everyone, this is Anne-Marie, the anti-HR lady, and we are here for another episode of Conversations with Black Women Who Coach. This is my YouTube series where I introduce you to Black women who are coaches in my mission to encourage more of us to not only seek coaching, but to seek coaching from Black women. And I created the BlackWomen Coach Directory so that it would be easier for people to find Black women who are coaches and work with them. And today we are talking to Coach Terry Banks, who is a finance coach, right? Or financial coach.
Financial coach.
And she just told me this, and I still mess it up. She's a financial coach, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about her work and how she works with her clients to help them get their money right, I'm assuming. And who doesn't need that, especially us.
Yes.
So if you enjoy this video and you enjoy this content, please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel and tell a friend. So Coach Terry Banks, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
All right. So like Anne-Marie said, I am a financial coach and using the same concepts that I work with my clients on is how I retired myself from my W-2 career. And that career was in supply chain and operations. I worked at small but quickly growing companies. I would say startup, but it wasn't really tech. So that tech money wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So that's not how I retired myself. I really retired myself with being consistent and being true to what my goals were once I figured out what they were. True to what they were and consistent, and actually ended up having the opportunity to live a life that I never thought was possible. Like my reality is better than any of the dreams that I dared to dream.
Well, that's amazing. So tell us, you just kind of told us what inspired you to become a coach. Yes. Tell us a little bit more about your coaching practice, because now my interest is really piqued. And like you told us how you came to doing this, but tell us a little bit about your coaching practice and your approach to this now that you are coaching other people.
Yes. So let me just back up a little bit, because really the way I came into doing it is I was 30 and just had a breakup. And so that milestone birthday, along with a little extra time on my hands and, time to myself, like this is not working. This really is not working. I have this credit card debt. Like, what did I even do? How much pizza did I eat? And I was like, I got to do something different. So I just started spending a lot of time in the library, because they say if you want to hide something, especially from us, put it in a book. And I was like, let me go see what these books, let's see what's up with these books. So spent a lot of time in the library reading personal finance books. And it was really fascinating, really fascinating. I'm kind of nerdy. The glasses are new though. I was kind of incognito nerdy before, but now I need these three. I turned 50, actually turn 51 next month. So just
welcome to the club.
Yeah. Yes.
The glasses are an accessory of being in this age group.
Absolutely.
I just accessorize with mine now. Because that, it used to be shoes, now it's glasses for me. I have to wear them all the time. And I never thought I would be one of the people who woke up in the morning and reached for their glasses. And now I'm one of those people. And it's very humbling because I had 20/20 vision for most of my life.
Oh, yes.
I never ever had any problems with my vision until I did. And it's just one of those things now. So you decided to go to the library and do your own homework.
Yes. And I learned something I would share with my friends. And the more I learn, the more I implement, the more personal success I was having. I share with friends, like, you could really help people. And I'm like, I'm kind of shy. I'm an introvert. I don't want to be the face of a company. I mean, there was a reason I was in operations, right? Let me just sit back here, do what I got to do, not be bothered with,
I used to be in operations too. I know.
Yes. Stranger danger.
Great for introverted people. Yeah.
Yes. So, and then when I got to the point where I was like, it's really going to happen. I'm going to be able to retire by 50. If I just keep keeping on and, nothing crazy happens in the world, it's going to happen. Like, okay, well, you've kind of run out of excuses. You can't, it started to feel like gatekeeping. You can help more people than the people that you've already met. I'm like, okay. So started that part. And really, one of the amazing things about helping other people grow is helping myself grow. And I've always enjoyed personal development, but this has been an opportunity for me as well. I'm out in these streets asking people to be uncomfortable for a little bit, change some things, make some adjustments, really think about what it is they want for their life, who they want to be, and those things. And I end up asking myself that same question as I'm operating the business and helping others, and who do I have to be to be of service to people in this way. And so I've grown as well.
So tell us a little bit about not only why this particular type of coaching is important, because it really is, but why having a Black woman as a coach in this particular niche of financial coaching is important. What's the value add of that, do you think?
Well, I mean, we are the population that is asked to do more with less financially. And that's just one of the topics that we're asked to do more with less. And if I could start off with stupid credit card debt, and I also had student loans too, but I wasn't going to be made to feel bad about that. But also, that was the time I got my student loans it wasn't under the same financial
right as now. Yeah.
As now, people are suffering. It's ridiculous. And then I just, I'm sorry. What was the question? I got distracted.
What I asked was, why would you say this type of coaching,
gotcha. Yes,
right, is important? And why is it important to have a Black woman coaching in this particular niche area?
There is a runway that we don't have to use in our time together. I mean, we're not a monolith, but there are some things about the way that we are treated from the outside that gives us enough of a commonality to know what those challenges are. So when someone says to me, in one of those moments, we're examining their finances and they realize some of the mistakes they made or some of the choices that they made. Some of those choices are made because of the cultural structures. And so I'm a cheerleader, I'm accountability, I'm a mentor, a little bit of a teacher, all of those things. And sometimes some of those things, you don't want to hear them from someone that doesn't look like you.
Because it feels like judgment.
And even sometimes, even with the cheerleading, it can come off with a little less bass, a little less.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would say in my own personal experience, and I think, and in my family and so on, I think most of us, and of course we're not a monolith, so this is not true of all of us, but those of us who are in a particular class, and I would say low middle income or below that.
Yeah, that was me.
We're not taught about money. I mean, and my parents are both college educated people, but they were all first generation college, whatever, in their families. They aspired to come to America and finish their studies and buy a home, because in the Caribbean, everybody got to buy a house. But they never really, I don't think they came from the Caribbean. They didn't know anything about credit scores and debt to income ratios and saving for anything more than buying your first house and that kind of stuff, and retirement accounts and all those things. And so I had to figure out a lot, and I still, money is not my favorite thing. Numbers are not my favorite thing. But
numbers not mine either.
I had to figure it all out myself, because nobody told me or had the ability to tell me things that I learned. So I learned by trial and error about all these things. And I talked to my son about those things more and spoke to him about it earlier. My parents never talked to me about credit or any of those things when I was a child or even a young adult. But, and I think that's probably true of a lot of us, that even though, you know, you're told to get the education and to do whatever, but no one really talks to you about money management and planning for retirement. You know, in the Caribbean, you know, people's retirement plan is that their kid's they're gonna move in with their kid, or they're gonna, you know, they go back to the island, or it's very vague. It's not, you know, so I don't think that, and I think that's the big thing, is while other people who have generational wealth, you know, they talk to their kids young about money and give their kids a job in their company and all these different things that I saw in work life to teach them things. And we don't have that. You know what I mean? We don't have that. And so a lot of us fail because we don't have anybody to give us information. And it does feel like judgment when you know you haven't done it right. And then someone is trying to tell you all the things that you did wrong, instead of just telling you what you need to do to correct it and going forward do differently. And on top of that, you are in a very consumer focused environment, because capitalism cannot thrive without consumption. And so you are constantly encouraged to consume. And on top of that, as a Black person, people hear me say this all the time, you're constantly trying to buy your way out of your second-class citizenship status. So you're buying things you don't need to prove to yourself and, you know, and the people at the office and everyone around you that you're worth something. And so you couple all of those things and you have very problematic relationship with money, which, you know, all of us have. And we don't necessarily all recognize some of the things that I just mentioned, but it impacts you all the same, whether you recognize it or not. Even in terms of the way, you know, some of our kids get into trouble early in life, especially those who are low income, it's all in pursuit of the same thing, right? Of attaining things that you think are important that will make you feel important. And a lot of us end up putting ourselves in debt trying to attain, you know, and America is a debtor society. Capitalism cannot thrive without that either. So, you know, when you go to other places, and I live, you know, I don't live in the United States anymore full time. I live outside the United States. And in other places, cash is king. Even in certain European countries, you pay cash for things. So I live in Mexico. You buy a house, you pay cash for the house. Yeah. And so, you know, what I always tell people, when people are rich in Mexico, they real rich. They rich. What I call rich bitch rich. And in America, they're not really rich. Elon Musk is not really rich. He's leveraged up to his eyeballs. Yes. So it's like, and some people don't even know what I mean, but what I'm saying is he has a lot of debt. He has money on paper, but he's not really rich. And if people called in that debt tomorrow, he'd probably jump out of a window because he wouldn't have any more money. And so we live in a debtor society where you have the accoutrements of success, but you don't own things, right? You don't actually own your house. You don't actually own your car. You don't actually own your, you know, all these things that you have, because if you buy them on credit card, you don't actually own them. Exactly. Right? And then you have to put yourself in a debt to get an education to even attain the other debt. So it's like this vicious cycle, and there's ways to work it. But if you don't understand even what you're coming into, because nobody explains this to you, then you're like at a deficit from the very beginning that you begin to interact with money, because you only understand money as something to spend, right? To pursue and then spend. You don't really, no one really teaches you about investment. No one really teaches you about compound interest. No one really teaches you about any of that stuff. I had to learn all this stuff by screwing up my finances.
Same here.
Myself out of it. And so it's like, and it's a constant thing that you have to keep, you know, reinforcing, because you know, I don't feel as tempted to be a consumer. I still like consuming, but not at the way that I used to. And I like nice things, as I always tell people. I'm not somebody that's willing to just go out in tatters so that I can have $100,000 in the bank. But you have to have limits, and you have to understand what your goals are, as you said. But I think it's really hard in the context of that for us to understand why Black people have such problems with money. And all of those things are contributors. Right. We have problems with money.
Right. And we also
need someone like you.
Thank you. Yes. Our longevity, our how long we're going to be here also dictates how long we think we're going to be here, dictates how we spend our money.
Mhm.
If our horizon is here, it's hand to mouth,
Mhm.
we're going to
Then
end up.
you don't even think about what you're going to do when you're 65, because you don't think you're going to be here to be 65.
Right. We're going to end up with Jordans. And if we think, oh, I might make it a little bit, oh, I'm going to get a car. But rarely when we're just beginning and we think, unless we have someone encouraging us, someone that's set that example, or unless we're pioneering, we can't think far enough out about that house or
Yeah.
about some other type of asset that will help to support us so that
And
we don't
even,
have.
I mean, I found in
on the
my
job.
experience, everyone was expected to buy a house, right? Because it was what everyone did.
Mhm.
But it was not clear to me why I was in such hot pursuit of buying this house, besides the fact that it had been hammered into me from very young, that when, you get a good job, you go to college, you get a good job, and you buy a house. Like, no one said, then you should maybe buy another house, right? As investment or anything like that. It was just, you buy the house, you live in the house, right? And that was it. No one ever explained what came after that. They just explained the part where you bought the house. And so even when you do those things that some people think are markers of success, but if you don't understand how to leverage any of that stuff because nobody told you, you could still end up at the short, with the short end of the stick, because you don't really understand how to like turn one house into another house, and the value of investment property and all these different kinds of things, because you've never seen anybody do it, as you said. So you don't know, and your people don't know either, right? So you don't really have a model or anyone to tell you until later, when you really find yourself in trouble, and then you're trying to figure out how to get yourself out of it.
Under duress.
How a lot of us get to it, and some of us never get to that point, right?
Right.
So it's just, I'm really happy to see more of us getting into the conversation with each other about money.
Yes,
because
absolutely.
we don't like to talk about money. I know I don't like to talk about money, but it's necessary, right? For us to have a better handle on our finances than we have. Right.
So, earlier we were talking about socioeconomic classes. I grew up essentially in the projects. My mom did a fantastic job of keeping the household running. We never got anything cut off. She taught me how to balance a checkbook and pay your bills on time, Terry. And that was it. And then I went to college, sold my soul to, I believe it was American Express, for a t-shirt, and everything she taught me went out
the window
until I turned 30. And I was like, what'd she say again? And one of the things that I make sure to bring is not judgment. I assume that people don't know because we weren't taught, or the things that we could have been taught are very possibly could be something that we need to unlearn.
Right.
And giving grace. I like to say I'm that judgment-free auntie. You can tell me everything, I'm keeping in confidence, but I'm gonna keep it real with you, because why would I blow smoke?
Yeah.
Right. So it's really important for us to be able to, first of all, find someone that you trust. There's a reason that we don't talk about it, but find someone that you trust, that you can talk about it with. And for me, the things that I work on the foundational pieces with my clients, because I don't expect that they are ready to invest. They may be, but they may not have the systems in place to make sure that the money that they've set aside, that is now locked into something, that they won't need for their regular expenses.
Yeah.
So we focus on mindset. We work on that why, to kind of peel back the layers of the consumerism and to see why it is you think you're supposed to do this, and who told you that, and why did they tell you that, and who's profiting from you having that type of
that, right?
And keeping the FOMO and the YOLO where it belongs, on the outside, not right. Keep it with the Joneses, over there with the Joneses, and don't let it hijack your life, right? And then we focus on budgeting, and it's not restrictive at all. it really is just a way to examine, so that when you can see, oh, I can't believe I've been that subscription or that whatever, I gave them all that money. Well, you don't have to do that anymore.
Exactly.
Now you can give yourself that money.
Or that coffee that you're spending every day, that you're buying every day. I stopped buying the coffee and bought some stock instead. So,
yes.
But it's like, instead you can have it once a month.
Yeah, it's how,
because then you see what you're spending. It's just, and I think it's a big part of it is because we don't see. And it was when I actually started using a platform where I could see where my money was going. And I could see like what things that I was spending money on that I really was not necessary, that you really, so you do have to, you need help, and you need to approach it with like an intentional, as you said, like teaching people,
very intentional,
figure out like why they're spending money on different things. Because I do still feel like, I always tell people, I still feel you have to enjoy your money. I'm not like a person who believes that you can't do anything and you just got to save every time, but you have to be very thoughtful about how
I'm a big kid.
What are you spending it on? Yeah, that you enjoy, and then be very committed to saving, certain amounts of money all the time, but not to the point where your life is not enjoyable. Because I think that's what people think.
That's what they think. That's what they think.
When they hear save, they think that doesn't sound like any fun. You know what I mean?
It's fun. It's fun.
Right. But it doesn't have to make, it doesn't have to not be fun, but you do have to be intentional about it. And you kind of started talking about what my next question is, but what kind of person should hire you as their coach? Like, what do you think, what are you looking for in terms of the kind of person that you would want to hire you?
So the type of clients that I like to work with are really the ones that want something different. They may or may not be in that rat race. What I really enjoy, and this is kind of selfish, but what I really enjoy is when my clients get that aha, and it's a paradigm shift, and it's like they can see through the smoke and mirrors, and they are like, oh, I get it. And so they've been going through some of the motions, but then they get it and they embrace it, and they're like, oh, that budget. Like I like to say, the budget, it helps me find and fund my yes. Because like I said, I couldn't, the life that I have now is better than I could have dreamed.
Mine too.
I was making progress, my dreams expanded. A little more progress, my dreams expanded. And that's really important, but you can't see it from the beginning. So I try to bring in that what's possible aspect of it as we go through the mundane parts of the data entry or whatever. Just it's a mix. You really have to have that balance to get the vision of the future. And so I like working with individuals. I also like working with couples, because there's something about teamwork that also is has an impact as well. And part of generational wealth is having someone to look to that is already helping you to build it, or you could see the processes that you're building for your future generations. Like, for instance, my wife and I, we don't have kids, but we have nieces and nephews. And we did our estate planning. I wasn't grown until we did our estate planning. Until you think about you and everyone that you love enough to put in your will, killing them off in some kind of way, just to figure out that administrative part of it with the lawyer. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a lot. But our nieces and nephews, they all have to go through financial coaching. They have to get up to speed, because I don't want them to blow it, but I also don't want them to struggle under the weight of whatever it is. And we're still working to grow it and make sure that they're going to be okay. but also we don't want their kids to get out of the mud because they messed it up.
Right.
Right. Because I could just go blow it myself, but that's not why, that's not why we set these things up for them. So, and there's the mindset and the budgeting. There's also the debt reduction.
Right.
As part of it, because, the credit cards, 25%.
It's not a game.
The only people who are making those returns really are loan sharks and accredited investors. And I'm not that more people need money than just those.
Right.
Those two. And so the debt reduction, so you can keep that money. That is reducing your debt is a form of savings, and it is a form of getting yourself free.
It sure is.
But also that moves on to savings, which is really a preparation for investing. Oftentimes the return on an investment grows when your seed is bigger. It's not always, because you can buy fractional shares, but you're not, unless you are a very savvy investor, you're not going to put $1 down on a house, right? This is for regular people. This is not for the savvy investor, who's been studying this for a long time.
Yeah, they don't need a financial coach. So tell us a little bit about your programs and how people can work with you. So people want to work with you after watching this video, I'm sure people will. How do they do that?
So I have a 3-month coaching program, and we do go through that mindset, budgeting, debt reduction, and saving. And throughout that, covering those, it's all based on what their goals are. I know what mine are. It's about them. And I really try to encourage them to put in their budget things that are important, like fun things. And just to see how it feels to know that you either just had fun and it wasn't to the detriment of your finances, or you're about to have fun, because that account is just going to keep getting funded, just like direct deposit. Now you have your allowance. Remember how fun it was to have an allowance as a kid?
I never had an allowance. I wish my parents were like, what am I paying you to do this stuff for you? Go do it. I never had an allowance.
Oh, my allowance wasn't for chores.
Yeah. No, I never got an allowance, period.
But it was part of it was some of the savings. I got that first job, and my mom's like, you can have this much and everything else. And that actually helped me freshman year of college.
That taught you.
Get my stuff.
Yeah.
I was able to get my bedding, my this, my that, this stuff for my dorm. And I was like, oh yeah, that was good. And then, I made my bed, and everything she taught me went out of my head, of course. But
it came back. It came back.
It came back in full force.
So you have a 3-month coaching program, and Coach Terry's information will be in the description of this video. So if you want to reach out to her and work with her, you can reach her through the contact information. She's also a member of the BlackWomen Coach Directory. You'll see her right on the landing page when you log on. So you can also reach out to her in that way, but you'll get her website, and all that information will be in the description of this video. So my last question for you is, tell us one thing that's very important that you've learned about yourself through coaching others.
I'm still an introvert, but I'll keep that for the real strangers. My stranger danger is more selective now.
So you've learned to be more extroverted.
Yes, because I'm really compelled to do this. I accidentally took 8 months off last year of just selling the house, moving to Mexico, all those things. I was depleted, and I didn't really have the bandwidth to do what it takes to get more clients. But whenever I was working with current clients, I'm like, oh, that feels so good. It reinforced I love what I do. I actually feel kind of empty without it. It's so much fun. Because then whenever someone gets it and they get that aha, that's one less victim of the financial services industry.
Kind of the way I feel about my HR consultant.
Yeah, exactly.
It's stressful, but then when I get off a call with my clients, like I just did before, I'm like, that is great.
Yes.
You know, I get to stick it to the man and they don't even know that I'm the one sticking it to them. They just know they cutting people checks, but they don't know why. And it's wonderful feelings. I know exactly what you mean.
Yes.
I know exactly what you mean. Because you're getting to help other people, avoid, in some cases, things that you didn't avoid. And then you're helping them get out of something that they might be in a difficult financial situation. Because I know when people are in those situations, you feel like you can't get out. Yes. Right. I never thought that I would live to see the day where I was completely debt free. I never thought that would ever happen.
Congratulations.
I always was like, I'm going to die and I'm just going to have debt. Right. But that is not necessarily doesn't have to be.
It does not have to be.
Right?
Doesn't have to be.
So now the rest of my life's objective is to remain debt free. So it is like, but it's just not something that I ever thought was possible because I didn't know anyone that was. And it's just, you're taught that you're supposed to have debt, but you don't need to.
No. There's consumer debt, and then there's debt that you leverage, not debt you just have that just weighs on you. Right. But
it's all debt. There's good, they always say there's good debt and bad debt, but it's all debt.
You got to know the difference.
You want to avoid the bad debt if at all possible. And even credit cards can be leveraged, but you have to know how to use them. And that's what I always tell people, I
got to know the game in order to play.
I use credit cards, but yet I'm debt free. So for me, credit cards again are they're something I use to reach another, to get points and to get free hotel stays and to do other things. And I'm obsessive about paying my balance.
Oh, yes.
Every month, right? So I think it's really important for people to, even with credit cards, I always tell people if you're going to have credit cards, because I said that to my son, at your age, you only need to have one, and make sure it's a credit card that's giving you something, not just taking something from you, but giving you something so that when you use it, you're going to get something from it that you can use for yourself, right? But you got to pay your balance. And if you're not in a position to be able to pay the balance, then you shouldn't have a credit card.
Exactly.
You shouldn't have one if you're not going to be able to comfortably pay the full balance. If you spend $5, you need to be able to pay the $5.
Exactly.
Right? And then get some points for your vacation, right? But not just be using it and you don't get anything from it, but interest. If you dare miss, if you don't miss a payment, you're paying 25%, 22, 23, 24%, which a lot of these credit cards, especially the ones that give you rewards, they charge the highest interest. So if you don't know how to leverage them, you're going to get really, you'll be in trouble really fast.
Yes.
So I always, I
swipe that card for vacation.
Telling people, to use the credit cards. And I'm like, yes, but you got to, you have to have control of yourself and you have to know what you're using it for. But I always tell people, if it's not giving you something, I don't have a credit card that doesn't pay me something.
Yeah, imagine swiping a card. Imagine going on vacation, swiping. You come back and you're actually really funding somebody else's vacation with all the interest.
Exactly. That's what it is. So it's like, if you want to spend, if you got $20,000 or $10,000 saved to go on the vacation of a lifetime, then you need to have that $10,000 sitting there. So when you get back, you can pay that balance. So basically you're just exchanging the cash. You're using the credit card to get, the cash back or whatever you're going to get on it, but you got to have the money to pay it. Not some of the money, all of the money, right? If you only got $5,000, go on a $5,000 vacation. Go on a $10,000 vacation, which is what people do. Go on a $5,000 vacation. If you only have $5,000, see if you can go on a $3,000 vacation.
Go on a staycation. Go on a staycation this year.
But I don't tell people that. I'm like, if you really want to go on a vacation, go on one. But if you're saving, because remember I said, if you're saving up for a vacation, have the money, but don't save $3,000 and spend $5,000.
Right. But if you don't have anything,
well, then you need to stay home. Then you can
staycation, save the next year, do it.
But I think what happens a lot is, people don't think of it in those terms, right? So they don't have anything and they just go spend because they have a credit card. And then you're paying for that vacation for 5 years. You know what I mean? And it's like, you could have just stayed and saved and went, you know, when you had the money saved, and then you don't have the stress when you get back about the payment that you got to make, the big balloon payment that's waiting for you when you come back, because you either didn't save any money or you only had $1,000 saved and you went and took a $10,000 vacation. And that's what people do a lot. And they're like,
a lot of people do that because of the stress. They feel like I deserve, because they just the weight, they can't take it. They just need a break. And so they do it, but it ends up making reality even that much more
back, and now the
painful.
vacation is over, because I had that with someone I spoke to recently, and then the vacation is over and you're still paying for it. And it wasn't that great. So I'm like, you know, maybe next time stay home, or, you know, do something less expensive at home. But, you know, I don't think people think in those terms, because I think you are right. It's emotional. A lot of times it's emotional, and you're stressed and you just want a break, and you just, you know, buy a cruise that you saw on the internet or something like that, and you put it on the credit card. And I think most of us don't really understand how insidious, as you said, the financial services industry is. So you just don't realize, you know, how much you're being taken. Because it took me a long time to figure it out, but now I understand. This is why I hate paying it. I'm like, there's no way, because it's just the worst thing. You know what I mean?
I love being a deadbeat.
Yeah, I pay my card. If I use that card, it gets paid at the full balance, because I don't carry interest. I don't pay interest. So I don't believe in paying.
And you know, they call us deadbeats. The credit card companies,
they want.
They call us deadbeats. Those that pay their bills.
One of them took my card because they said I wasn't using it enough. And when I was using it, I was paying it in full. And they actually took the card from me for that.
Wow.
They closed it. Yeah, and I was like, are they allowed to do this? And then my friend was like, yeah, she's a lawyer. She was like, yeah, well, I'm a lawyer too, but I don't know anything about financial services stuff in the law. And she was like, yeah, they are allowed to do that. And I was like, how dare they take my credit? They closed it because apparently I wasn't making them enough money. Yeah, because I hadn't used it in a while. And when I did use it, I paid the whole balance off at the billing period. I would pay the bill the couple times that I used it. And so they weren't making enough money. So they closed it. They took my card.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I've never heard of anyone's card being taken because they didn't. I thought they only took it if you didn't pay it. They took it because I was paying it.
No, so one of the reasons that they do that is because your limit that shows not really an asset to you, but shows as something that you have access to, on their end, it shows as a liability. Yeah. So if you're not making the money, that exposure, they feel it.
So what I've learned now to use the card, like I had one and I used it at least use it twice a year, but I still pay the balance. So I won't be shocked if they come knocking next about it. But I was like, because I hadn't used the card for like a year, and they sent me a letter at the end of the year and they closed it and informed me that they had closed the account.
Wow.
Yeah, MasterCard. It was MasterCard. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay, because that affects your debt to rate.
It sure does. It sure does.
I was pissed about that part, but yeah, they closed it. But I was like, I don't know anybody else that had their credit card taken from them for not spending enough, but apparently they can do that. This has been a really great conversation. Thank you for participating. As I shared, Terry is a member of the BlackWomen Coach Directory, and I will be sharing her information in the description. If you enjoy this conversation, please like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.
Bye-bye.